If you wanted a watch that can double as a stopwatch, you would go for a chronograph. But what about a watch with two stopwatches? That's where the Rattrapante or split seconds chronograph comes into play. Rattrapante derives roughly from the French word for catch up. When you think of a complication such as a split seconds chronograph, you expect the price tag to be well over $50,000 or $60,000. But in today's video, we are going to be looking at one of the most affordable split seconds chronograph and how the young brand behind it arrived at it. I'm talking about the Habring² Doppel 3.0. Hello and welcome back to Wine on the Move. I would like to thank Nick again for lending me his watch that made this video possible. It was extremely generous of him. Before we get into the watch and how a split seconds chronograph works, let's take a quick look at the brand and how the Doppel 3 came to be. The husband and wife team of Richard and Maria Habring operates perhaps the only watchmaking outfit out of Austria. Together, they run Habring², which started in 2004. All the Habring² timepieces are produced by hand, one of those things that not many watch brands can say these days. In 1993, IWC released the Doppel chronograph, an affordable version of the complex split seconds chronograph movement, spearheaded by watchmaker Richard Habring. The traditional method to do a split seconds chronograph is to add a second column wheel, a second wheel, brake, zero reset system to the base chronograph. The split seconds is one of the most difficult complications to execute properly, often needing more care in the design and more attention in the adjustment than a 2-beyond. But Richard managed to find a way to make the split seconds chronograph without any column wheels, thereby making it simple and inexpensive to manufacture. IWC Doppel chronograph's split seconds module was invented by Richard Habring while he was employed by IWC. IWC promptly patented it in 1991. Habring eventually left IWC and started Habring² with his wife in 2004. IWC's patent expired after 20 years of exclusivity, and in 2011, Richard had the ability to update his invention and use it in his own watch. And so, Habring² produced a split seconds chronograph. The Habring² Doppel 2.0 borrowed the same watchmaking principles and underlying architecture, including a value 7750 base, as the IWC from the 90s, though it didn't have automatic winding and featured Habring's own styling. The Doppel 2 won the 2012 gphg Sports Watch of the Year award. gphg is like the Oscars of the watch world. Only 20 pieces of the Doppel 2 were made. Then came the watch we're looking at today, the Doppel 3.0. Let's first look at a few differences between the Doppel 2 and 3. The dial design on the Doppel 3 was updated to bring it closer to the sports watches of the 1960s. The Doppel 2 had 3 pushers for the chronograph functions, like many split seconds chronographs. The Doppel 3 has only 2 pushers. Only one pusher is used for the start, stop, zero reset. It is essentially a monopusher Rattrapante. In the Doppel 3, same as the Doppel 2, the split seconds mechanism is added to the tried and tested value base. This was probably the last of the 7750 base split seconds from Habring². Early 2019, Habring² unveiled the Doppel Felix. It too is built on the Doppel before it, but now features a movement developed and produced in-house and no longer relies on the base ETA movement. The development of the in-house movement, according to Habring, was a response to a letter from ETA stating that they would no longer supply him with movements or even spare parts. Coming back to the Doppel 3, the immediate aesthetic impact of the watch is very impressive. The colors are well selected. Black anodized dial with silver subdials. The dial layout is a traditional dual counter, very classical. The main chronograph hand has a red lacquer treatment, while the split hand is an oxidized finish. The hour and minute hands have superluminova. However, as the chronograph hands are not equipped with lume, only the time can be read in the dark, but not the chronograph functions. The stainless steel case is 42mm in diameter. It does have a good wrist presence, and I won't pretend like it would look fine on a smaller wrist. This is a chunky watch. Doppel 3 utilizes the A08MR hand-wound monopusher chronograph movement. It is similar in height to the IWC, but the overall watch is thicker due to the style of the case and domed sapphire crystal. Movement finishing is not done to the usual high horology level, but rather at a modest level afforded by the relatively low asking price of around $8,800 US, now only available through resellers. Though the movement has some decorative finishing, mainly perlage on the bridge and a blued steel plate, the movement is still basic. The steel levers for the chronograph still bear the tumbled, polished surface finish of the basic 7750 movement. But the movement and the watch has the appeal of something made by a practical craftsman. But how does a split seconds chronograph work? A regular chronograph is nothing more than a stopwatch added to a normal watch. A split seconds chronograph looks like a conventional chronograph, but instead of one hand showing elapsed seconds, there are actually two, one directly above the other. The two hands are superimposed, and when the watch is started, they move together, looking exactly like a single hand. On this particular watch, there are two pushers at 2 and 10 o'clock. The pusher at 2 starts, stops and resets the chronograph, while the other pusher is for the split seconds hand. Let's say you are timing a race between two runners. When the starting gun goes off, you push the pusher at 2 and the chronograph starts running. In an ordinary chronograph, you'd push the stop button when the first runner crosses the finish line. You'd know the winner's time, but not the time for the second runner to cross the finish line. With a split seconds chronograph, you can measure both elapsed times. When the first runner crosses the line, let's say at 5 seconds, you push the split button and one of the second hands stops, but the other continues to run. When the second runner crosses the finish line, push the stop button and you can read off both the first and the second place times. You can also readjust the chronograph while you keep the first split intact. And if you want the split to catch up with the running chronograph hand, it can do that as well. And while it looks simple on the face of it, remember that under the hood, it is one of the most complex movements that has been assembled to run this split seconds accurately on demand. The pushers on Doppel 3 are not the smoothest, but that's when you need to consider the difference in price between this watch and its expensive, smoother counterparts. Unlike many of the more established brands offering this complication with their highly decorated movements, the Doppel 3 offers you a chance to own an impressive piece of high horology for a fraction of the price. That's our video for today. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on Habring² and whether you are impressed by this watch and this complication. If you enjoyed this video, do smash that like button and also consider subscribing. Follow me on Instagram at WineOnTheMove. Until next time, cheers.